At first glance, at least not in the pictures, but it's very near the end of its lifespan.
Okay.
The good thing is with 2 layers, you kind of get double the protection a little bit. When your roof does start to leak, there's still another layer of roofing underneath there that has to find a way through before it can get in the house. So that's a little bit of a good thing.
Okay.
And these are just kind of profile pictures across the roof. You can kind of see the shininess here. That's where all the granules are popping off the roof.
Okay.
So it's getting down into the fiberglass. So when you're on the roof, it actually shines, kind of like you're looking at a piece of glass with the sun hitting it. It just doesn't show up that way in the pictures. But you can see those are good. Those are newly replaced shingles, and those are the old shingles. And you'll
Okay.
get another reference of that a few pictures later. So this is from the opposite side looking back. You can see that shininess on the back side again.
Okay.
And then these are dimensional shingles, is what they're called, dimensional shingles. So they're basically made up of kind of 2 layers. You have one layer that's continuous and solid underneath it, and then they put the little bumpy kind of architectural design. It gets glued down to the top.
Okay.
So right now, we're starting to get some delamination of those shingles, and that is this portion right here. So that top layer is becoming detached and flipping up in the wind, and we're blowing off completely. So that's just another way to show us that it's starting to age. So you can look at that and see where it's been covered up for most of its life, and it looks really nice and pretty and brown, and then everything next to it is. So another way to show you that it's aging. Some of these spots could be considered hail damage. So, well, in your situation, it's not gonna help. Unless you buy the house and then call your insurance company to come out and say, hey, I got an insurance claim, there's hail damage, which may or may not work, especially because you just bought the house and they're gonna be like, well, you bought it like that, so that's your problem.
Yeah.
I don't know, depends on your insurance company.
My
Some are
insurance,
real-
they're like very like strict. They wanted to know exactly when the roof was replaced. So I feel like this is not
Not gonna work for
gonna
them.
fly. No.
So there's that one. And so you can obviously see the nice repaired section. It's really pretty and vibrant colors. And then everything on both sides of it that's very old. So previous repairs, nice pretty roof shingles. That's what your roof looked like when it was brand new. And now it looks like that. So not ideal. The swamp cooler is hooked up. It's a master cool style. Are you familiar with swamp coolers and how they work?
I used to have a swamp cooler, but I'm not really familiar.
Okay. So because of our dry, arid climate, adding moisture to the air actually lowers the temperature of the air. A master cool style has a very thick media pad, which is made of cardboard on this style. On the standard 4-sided ones, the pads are only this thick. So the thicker the pad, the more efficient it is, because the longer the air is being pulled through that pad, the more moisture that gets deposited in the air. Therefore, the lower the temperature of the air is going to be.
Gotcha.
So your standard 4-sided swamp cooler is good for 10, maybe 15 degrees on a really good day.
Okay.
This style is good for like 20 to 25 degrees.
Okay.
So that's a good thing. Not to mention, it also has a plastic pan in the front where the water sits. So since the water is sitting inside of a plastic pan, it lasts a lot longer and it doesn't rust out like standard swamp coolers do. Most swamp coolers are kind of like a 3 to 5 year lifespan. Master coolers are 20 to 25 years. So it's going to last you a lot longer if you decide to go that way. You have the 2 skylights on the roof here. Down here, they look like they're the big 2x4, but they're not. They're just a standard 2x2s on the roof.
Okay.
Both of these have cracks inside the lenses. The lenses are a 2-layer lens. You have an interior dome, which is usually clear, and then you have your exterior dome, which is this case in opaque white. They can be clear. They can be like a grayish color to help with the sun and stuff like that. But as we look at it, you can see the crack here on this top layer and this crack right there on the top layer. So water will get in between those 2 layers. We went through the house with the thermal camera. I'm not seeing any damage, but of course I can't see past these lenses there. So I can't say that there is or there isn't damage up there. And then first one again, he's getting it does have a crack down at the bottom corner as well.
Okay.
And then this is the other one, and the other one is starting to crack in the bottom corner, and then you can kind of see that dirty bathtub ring where the water gets in there and builds up.
Okay.
Penetrations on the roof just need to be resealed where the pipe and the roof jack meet, just a tar ceiling. Most of them have been taken care of because they were on the backside around the swamp cooler when it got replaced, or when the roof got redone right in that area. But this one's up on the front, so there's not a whole lot that need to be done on penetrations, but a couple. Gutters are in very poor shape. So these are the attaching brackets that should be secured in place. And you should have an attaching bracket every 18 to 24 inches. So we're going probably 5.5, 6 feet without any brackets. Which leads to, would you rather see it or look at pictures?
I'm doing pictures for now. My dad's gonna be too much. But
So this is across the front where the dirt's starting to build up in there. And then you can see that the metal is actually out further than the roof. So when it's not a really hard rainstorm, most of the water is just draining down behind the gutters, which is causing all the damage to the fascia all the way around the house too. So when we look down, we've got the nice bend in the gutter here, and then as we go down a little further, you can see where it's just kind of squeezed it together and it's not even catching most of the water in those two areas. Johnny and his cousin Fred came over and did it with pizza and beer, because you should have an end cap right there that keeps the water from hitting the house. But they just pushed it right up against the house and caulked it in. So now every time water builds up into there, it puts water directly in contact, and if the water doesn't drain away properly, there's a potential that could cause further damage to the site. So, another picture of where the gutters are actually pulling away from the house, so they're not catching the water they're not supposed to, or that they are supposed to. This is some water damage in sealing the previous patch. It's been patched up, it's not actively wet. And then after I kind of started looking through the house more, I think I might have figured out why. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but that's just inside the master closet, so I'll show you that. And then down at the base, you can see where they patched around the base of the wall. At first I was worried that it might have been a burst pipe, but then after looking through the house a little bit further, it was probably when they repiped the house. So have you ever heard of polybutylene? So polybutylene is a great pipe. The chemical makeup of the pipe reacts negatively to chlorine. When it was first put in place and they started using polybutylene, they didn't have as much chlorine in the water, or any chlorine in the water like we do today. All municipal water systems add chlorine to the water to make it safer to drink, so their standards aren't as crazy or even stuff like that. So because of that, it causes polybutylene to deteriorate from the inside, and eventually it will burst. So this house, when it was originally built, was built with polybutylene pipe. When I looked inside the bedroom closet on the front side, you've got all those gray pipes in that manifold right there. That's the polybutylene. Normally during a repipe, when a plumber comes in and repipes the house, they will cut all of those pipes off, and then they'll stick a little nozzle down and they'll put a little bit of spray foam, and the spray foam will come out the top. And then everywhere that it comes up into the bathrooms and the kitchen, they will cut the pipes and spray foam those areas as well. Your house appears that it's been repiped, but they didn't cut those pipes and they didn't spray foam. So that gives an indication to me that it wasn't potentially done by a licensed professional. I don't know who did it. And then the other thing that is a little bit concerning or confusing with that is that when that happens, they would also get a city inspection and have a green sticker that's about 3.5 to 4 inches tall, and it says that repipe was completed on this date and that it was inspected by the city and met all the codes and standards that it needed to. I can't find that sticker anywhere either, which leads me to believe again that it wasn't done by a licensed professional that was doing everything the way that it should have been done. Have you ever seen a thermal camera before? Ghost shows or anything like that? That's where my wife looks at it from. So this is a thermal camera. So it gives us a thermal picture of what's going on, so we can see all the framework inside the walls. We can see the heat coming out, things like that. Not everybody uses these. I use them on all my inspections because I want to give you the best service that I can, which really helps out on your house. Because as we look at this wall, you can see that yellow spot in the middle that runs up. That's the hot water line that then runs across here and goes through the wall. So that shows me that during construction of the house, all the water lines ran through the foundation. You shouldn't have any water lines running through the wall. So the fact that we have water lines running through the walls tells me that they repiped the house. I can see it here. I can see it in this wall here, which you can kind of see the loop at the bottom down there a little bit. And then it runs up and goes inside. It's better when this is closed. it'll pick the lights. And then it runs up and goes through the ceiling up here. So that shows me that they have repiped it, because a lot of the time when they do repipe it, they run it through the attic space. And Elijah's up there, he was up there checking it, so he can confirm for us. But I cannot confirm that all places were repiped, or that all the lines are repiped, because it wasn't inspected by the city, and they're not using more industry standards on how they disable the old lines. So I can't make any promises that everything was done. So in the report, you'll see PEX. PEX is the stuff that we have here. It's gonna be a red and a blue plastic pipe. And then you'll also have the polybutylene, which is the bad stuff, which is the gray pipe. So that'll show up on both of the inspections. Insurance companies like to know what the house is piped with, because polybutylene has a tendency to burst, like we talked about, and flooding the house causing damage. So it would probably be a good idea to have a plumber come out and verify that all of the water lines have been disabled, and then it's all that way, so that your insurance company gives you a better rate on insurance.
Okay.
Let's go look at bathrooms. So, nice new cabinets, nice new fixtures and everything like that. On this one here, this line here was cut with a grinder and then runs up. And then these tiles are different than these tiles and these tiles from here. So these are just a little bit darker, and you can see where when they cut it, how they kind of damaged it a little bit. Grout in all the different places down here at the bottom. And then, sorry, back over here. Stuff like that. So this one is not nearly as bad as the master bathroom. The master bathroom is worse. This one is all still mainly attached. The sheetrock on the walls. If I tell you things that you already know about, just tell me to shut up and I'll move on, okay?
I don't know a lot about this house, so.
Well, any house or construction
Yeah.
matter. So sheetrock is 2 pieces of paper with gypsum in between. Gypsum is a material that's mined out of the earth. They liquefy it, pull it into a slurry, and then they compress it into sheetrock. So when the sheetrock gets wet again, the paper separates from the gypsum, which gives us a hollow sound. And since tile is bonded directly to the paper of the sheetrock, when you tap against it, this is nice and solid, and that's what it's supposed to sound like. In the master bathroom, it's a little bit hollow sounding, and so I know that the sheetrock has separated from the tile, and this stuff runs rampant across the master bathroom, probably like that high up. So pretty much time to redo the showers.
Okay.
So if you want to go in there, I'll show you what I'm talking about there. So across the front, you can see the holes in the grout line. Holes in the grout line down here at the base, and then down here at this bottom here. This is the, I guess, worst area. So when I tap on the walls, that's the way it's supposed to sound. You hear the difference in the sound? So all the grout in here is popping out. All across these areas over here, here. So all of that has had water behind it at some point. And with the state of the grout now, it's definitely allowing water back into it again.
Okay.
Let's see. So the master closet, this is originally, you got the spot back up in this corner here. And then all of this down in here where there's been water damage before. And then you get a little bit of discolorization along the baseboards here. That's where I originally saw that it was wet. And that these areas here have been patched in. Now that we know that they've done at least some repiping, that's why they put these holes here. So it could have burst in this area here, which is what prompted their repiping. But without knowing who did it, when they did it, how they did it, I can't give you any more information than that, other than, you know, more questions to ask.
Yeah. Okay.
Which at this point, they're not gonna be able to answer for you because it's the foreclosure.
Yeah. Okay.
So, just check all my pictures and my notes. The side gate down here on this side, they pulled it in so it's engaging the board here so it won't swing open. It's just, I could get it undone and it wouldn't be too hard to do it, but there's a chance that I could cause damage, so we don't do it. We just take pictures and note it.
Okay.
And then the latch, they've repositioned the latch from where it was because the board was splitting apart, so they put it down lower, but now it doesn't engage the locking mechanism. So small, super petty stuff. but that's what we take pictures of and tell you about so that you're aware of everything. The backyard, so right in between the bathroom and the kind of living room space, there's a little flower bed area. That area is depressed and there's nowhere for the water to get out, so any water that does get in there flows back towards the foundation. We call that negative grading, which is ideally not a good thing.
Okay.
More damaged guttering where it's rusted through. So this is in line with the swamp cooler. The reason it's doing it in those areas, when you use a swamp cooler, it pulls the moisture out of the air, the moisture out of the water, leaving behind all the mineral content, which changes the pH balance of the water that's left inside the swamp cooler. That's part of the reason why it corrodes so fast. So when that water drains down off the roof, it will deteriorate the shingles faster, which is why they replace the shingles directly underneath that.
Oh, okay.
And it will also do the damage to the guttering. It's kind of like using deionized water for certain things. It'll tear it up if you're not careful. We talked about that. Vegetation. So ideally you want to have your vegetation at least 12 inches away from the house. These trees are a lot better when they're, as far as being close to the house, because they don't have as much flexibility as other types of trees and bushes. But we still call it out. You want your vegetation at least 12 inches away from the house. That way when we get snow or when it's raining and windy and stuff like that, that it doesn't rub up against the house, causing damage to the house.
Gotcha.
We talked about that gutter right there. So the polybutylene that we were talking about. And like I said, I looked at it with a thermal camera. Your water heater is set at about 130 degrees, which is a little bit higher than normal, but still within reason. And there was no temperature running through these at all. Everything is the same temperature as the house, which leads me to believe that there's not water in it, but I can't say for sure.
Okay.
Talked about tile. The tub. So the severely corroded up drain is also not installed properly. So now if you fill that tub up, water's going to run down inside the wall cavity. Not necessarily the best. Okay, water heater. Water heater was replaced 2022, May of 22 is when it was built. They typically don't sit on the shelves very long, usually about 30 days tops, especially in the Albuquerque Rio Rancho area. So it's relatively new, which is a good thing. The other thing though is that we've got seismic strapping, we've got the drop leg on the gas line, we have all of the things that it should have. It just doesn't have the magical green sticker from the city saying they came out and looked at it. So 98% of water heaters in the state of New Mexico are not inspected. Nobody ever gets them inspected. My son works for a heating and air conditioning company, and they give out two prices. You have the inspected price or you have the install price. So it's not uncommon for that to be happening and stuff like that. It just depends on whether you want to push for them to have it inspected or not. The other thing that I will mention, it's not going to be in the report because there's not physically anything wrong with it, but they've used galvanized connections. Galvanized connections are resistant to water. However, the inside of the pipe is not galvanized. It's only the exterior of the pipe that's galvanized. Okay. So it will rust from the inside out. And because of the dissimilar metals, it will cause early corrosion on that. And so typically galvanized connections can sometimes fail within 2 or 3 years. So we're kind of in that ballpark right now. So that's something you want to pay attention to at least every 6 months or so. Okay. Look at it to see if it starts dripping and leaking. Okay. Ideally, they should have used brass, and they didn't use brass. So, but it's just plumbers being cheap. The dishwasher is currently running just to make sure that it works. It's not secured into the cabinetry correctly. So here at the bottom, it has these little pieces that are supposed to be secured to the unit itself, and they become detached. So that means the washer moves around a little bit. When you open it, it kind of tilts forward. So it just needs to kind of be reconnected up. If it's not reconnected up, it could cause the dishwasher drain line to become disconnected. It could break components of the plastic underneath there where the drain line connects, or it could loosen the water connection, which causes that to leak out underneath there as well. The drain line on the dishwasher where it connects up underneath the sink is also not installed properly. There's 2 ways to install a dishwasher correctly. You have what's called a high loop, and that's where your dishwasher drain comes out underneath the cabinet, runs up, touches the bottom of the cabinetry, and then comes back down and connects up. This one just kind of runs up and then runs to the pipe. What that means for you is when you hit your garbage disposal, it's going to push water down the drain and back into your dishwasher.
Okay.
So not ideal, and then it gets those nasty smells and stuff like that. And the other issue is if they fix the high loop, that'll take care of most of those issues. But right now, where the pipe connects up to the drain line, ideally you want it to stick up so that the water running through the drain doesn't flow back into the pipe. But right now, it's angled this way, so when the water runs down the pipe, it runs down into the dishwasher. So, oven and stove are doing everything that they're supposed to. Refrigerator's doing everything it's supposed to. Other than that, everything I think is pretty good. You've got some minor, like super petty things where they didn't pre-drill, so it split the doors apart. It's not going to cause any harm. It's just a little bit unsightly. The closet door in here, switch is right there. When they installed this door, they installed it improperly. So the screw here, they've stripped it out because they didn't use the right size. So this moves.
Okay.
And they just kind of put some components in there backwards. So that
Looks like it's crooked, yeah.
it just needs to be sorted out,
Okay.
which more than likely is going to be the screw getting replaced.
Okay.
Or if you wanted to change the style of doors, that's a perfect opportunity. And let's see what else Elijah found. Elijah, what else did you find? Anything